Hello, welcome to FireDEV, and on this episode we are talking to Pabitra Padhy. Is that how am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is a developer. He's worked at a bunch of big companies, and he's also part of the Cocos community. That's where I actually first interacted with him was in the Cocos community. And so yeah,
Mhm.
I'll let him do a better introduction than what I can do.
Yeah. Uh, so it's been 18 years since I started making games, and 8 years since in the industry. So I was always interested in making games, and that's how I just started making. So I thought of getting into engineering, learning about computer science, and so on. So I went on my journey, and yeah, it's been it's been a roller coaster ride. I've been through multiple companies. I worked on startups. I worked on big companies with multiple projects, different tech. So yeah, it's been 8 amazing years since I started, and yeah, like Farhan introduced me and Farhan go back in time about 8 9 years back, and I was in college. I think during my last year, somewhere around my last year and board exams. So I was there, and I started to make Coco's small example tutorials and all. And Farhan, fortunately at that point of time, as a boon, so he used to make Coco's videos through his YouTube channel, and it was a great help. We used to talk a lot, and basically Farhan kickstarted my learnings in Cocos, and that's how I basically get into the gaming industry. Built my portfolio, applied to a couple of studios, and yeah, that's when the journey started.
Okay, that sounds
So
good. And you can carry on.
yeah, that can
Okay,
go
yeah.
ahead. So
I was just about to ask, like, how would you explain like the differences and your experience from working in like a small studio and a big studio? Because you've worked in studios like EA, so like one of the biggest studios on the planet. Then you've obviously worked for small studios as well. So I mean, what's your
yeah.
preference, and how would you describe the differences?
It actually depends on the kind of company that you work for and what kind of projects that you're doing. Like you mentioned about EA, so I was working with EA until recently for 5 years now, and I did work with multiple startups and smaller scale companies, some service based companies, which were working with some of the bigger clients at that time, Animoca Blants and Lionsgate and some other companies. So it's quite different when you work on a company which is as mammoth as EA. Uh, and that also depends from studio to studio. So I was working in the Indian studio, the Hyderabad. It's called Slingshot Games, and we were part of multiple projects. Some of them are announced. Some of them we did work with a couple of other studios together. Uh, if I have to share my experience in one word, I mean, in a very short, brief way, startups are generally fast paced. So when we talk about agile, the agile style of development is more reflected when we talk about startups in that sense. Like the decisions are made quicker, the problems need to be fixed faster. It's all about getting more stable builds, like the absolute best to the player in a minimal amount of time. And when I speak about that, that involves all the disciplines. So if there is a small art glitch, probably a bigger company won't pay that much attention because they know in the next update, probably in a 2 weeks time, or maybe so generally the cadence cycle is about 1 month. If you see any big companies, except for a few, in the mobile industry, the cadence is generally about 2 to 3 weeks at the shortest. But when you go to startups, the cadence is every week. So when I was in a company called Moonfrog Labs in Bangalore, it was a startup I was working with there in the game dev team. I was working on a game called Alia Bhatt Star Life among other games, and the cadence for the releases were like every week. So it was hectic all the time. We used to update our features. We used to push user-facing features. We used to fix our issues. We used to do server updates, like all kind of stuff. Like it's never your plate is never empty when you're working on a startup. It's like something or the other, and there is a lot of uh, learning which happens on the job. uh, if I come to MNCs, like I'll because I worked with EA, again this limits to the kind of project that I worked on as well as to the studio that I worked on. There are some like 30, 40 studios all over the world within the EA's domain, as well as a couple of other companies within EA. So I'll my limit my example to a very specific instance. Is the updates are generally much more planned. The startups are like they are very quick on decisions. Okay, if this will work, let's do it and find out. As long as it's stable, we will push it. With MNCs, the decisions are usually quite longer. So that depends on the kind of person who is working on. Personally, I feel a little bored because to a company's lifetime, 30 years is not a big time. It's still in its infancy, if I'll say. Like Amazon till date still calls their developers, whatever they do, it's still day one. So it's just day one for them. For like, I think Amazon is there for like some at least 20, 30 years to my knowledge, or maybe more than that. So with a with a person like someone like me who is working in a company, for them 30 years is our like entire lifetime, right? We work some 30
Oh
30
yeah.
30 years. So in that sense, if a company is taking a decision and it takes 2 years of time, maybe it's not that big of a time, 1 year or 6 months of time. But for a dev, for someone who need constant challenge and need to work on things to learn and grow in their career, so that 6 months to 1 years of time is a really long, and that's what is the biggest difference between startups and MNCs to my knowledge, because the decision processes are usually quick, like they are super fast in startups, except in MNCs sometimes they are fast, but most of the time they are like they are mammoths, so it's difficult to move them.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely a difference that I've seen as well. And because like you were saying, a decision could take 1-2 years, and for a developer, or they might only be at a company for 1 or 2 years. So
Yeah,
if the developer's there for 6 months, and then like the higher ups, the executives, the managers are saying, you know, they're doing like a 2 year plan, that developer might be thinking, I only want to be here for a year, year and a half, and then move on to, let's say, different company that has, provides a better challenge, it provides more money, whatever the reason is. So obviously for a developer, it can become quite debilitating, because they're just thinking, I I might not even be here, to actually see this through. And that 2 year might not even be the end of it. That might just be when they can push something out, or, really announce it or talk about it. So yeah, that's definitely
true.
something in small studios versus the big studios. So at
Yeah.
EA, what sort of projects, titles did you work on, and in what
So
capacity?
I'm currently a staff software engineer. But when I joined EA, I was a software engineer one, and I gradually promoted over the years into a staff role. And so I started with when I joined EA, I started with uh, Tetris at that time, Tetris Blitz, and then after Plant vs Zombies one, and then there was a project which was a co-development between the EA Hyderabad and the Seattle team. So the title went for about 2 years of development, and it was soft launch a little bit, so I can speak about it. So the team in the Seattle as well as the Hyderabad was so the Hyderabad studio was a what do you call so basically it's in that pod structure. You have multiple pods inside a team. So we were one of the pod, and we were working on feature development for Plant vs Zombies 3. And so that went till the beginning of the pandemic. So it was 2 years then. And then after I moved into another code project with EF5 Monkeys, which is our Melbourne team. And I did work with Real Racing 3 as well as Need for Speed No Limits and unannounced title, which is in development.
Okay, and on those titles, like I've just got a list of the titles that you've worked on from your LinkedIn page. So like
Yeah.
Tetris Blitz and Plants vs Zombies, which are smaller games compared to some of the other ones. How many people was on that team to make something like Tetris Blitz or Plants vs Zombies?
So generally, these titles are quite older. They're something that we call in the mobile domain as live service titles. So we do push content updates, feature updates, and all like over the years, events and all these things. So these teams are generally not that big. They constitute at the max of 15 people of a total team. Depends. Like to my knowledge, or to the projects that I worked on, not more than 15-20 people. So among them, like 5-6 devs would be there, and one backend engineer is more than enough. One or two backend engineers, and there would be a PM and a designer, QA team. Like overall, it's not more than 15 or 20 team, 15 or 20 members in a team. But generally, the projects which are in development currently, which are not live service projects, but something that's in active development, that can vary from somewhere from the minimum of 60-70 people to 200, 300 people. So the biggest team that I worked was with EA Seattle, and the entire strength was around, so devs along with other people throughout the entire project was 200 plus. So it was quite a big team.
Okay, so yeah, very big team. And what about on? Because I see you also worked at Juego Studio,
Yeah.
and like, how big was that company compared to EA?
So I started with a company called DV Learning Solutions right after my college, and I worked there for about 6 months. It was basically sort of an internship as well as in software engineering entry to the market, you can call it that. And after that, I jumped into Juego, and Juego was a service based company. I think it's still operational in Bangalore today. And so they had clients from all over the world. Animoca Brands was one of their clients, as well as a couple of other big studios and independent third parties who were reaching them to make games. So it was basically a game service related company, and I had an amazing time. Specifically in terms of development, since it was the beginning of my career, I can say that I was getting a lot of projects that would help me learn more of Focus 2DX, because that was the time I think we you and me were still in touch a lot, and
Yes,
you were
we
still
were.
making videos. So that was the time when I was purely working on Coco Studios until I think in Moonfrog as well. So they had their own version of Coco Studios, the customized version. But yeah, after Moonfrog, there was a bit of Cocos, but it was mostly proprietary engine, Unity as well as a couple of other proprietary engines. So Joigo was I developed 5 projects, 5 mobile games within a year of time, and all of them were released in Android, iOS. Some of them are still there in the iOS and Android Play Store. And yeah, so it was a beginning of the career. So I had a good time there. Yeah,
Okay, that's good. And you said at Moonfrog that
yeah.
they use Cocos 2DX, but like a modified version. So what sort of things did they modify and add versus using what was built in? And like, what was the reasoning for doing that?
Mostly, so if we remember during the beginning or maybe during the end of 2014, Cocos V3 was released.
Yes.
They updated their APIs and also, and that point of time, Moonfrog was also in development with another one of the markets biggest hit is TPG, Team Gold, which is still
Mhm.
currently active and fetching them millions of dollars. So they were using Cocos to that for that project, as well as if I remember correctly, it was Cocos Builder at that time, which was the UI making tool. If
Right.
I'm
Yes.
correct. Uh, so they were working with these two. They had some changes in the engine. I was quite junior at that point of time to understand the implications inside the engine, but not a lot of things had changed. There were some core issues which were there in Cocos at that time, which was audio used to crash, as well as there was some issue with blending animations, and there was one more thing, like 2 or 3 issues were there which were creeping up with all the projects. So and that they had fixed because they were working on that engine for quite a long time, and they had these issues addressed. But still, because the tools and everything was not deeply integrated until unless Coco's creator came later during 2018 or sometime. So those UI challenges were still there. It was not extremely streamlined, but they had figured out a way to like work with it and make fantastic games. Yeah.
Okay. And during your period, I think around 2015 to 2017, he was a software engineer on doing SDK box for which was Coco
Yeah,
Studio X and technical evangelist for
yeah.
that as well. So you worked for Chukong. How was that experience for working for
That
Chukong?
actually came as I would say, recognition and reward at the same time. So what happened is, like, I was, you know this very well. So I was so into Coco Studio X.
Hmm.
So I made a lot of games. I basically and Also this was a time when I was in Divi. I was in my first company, and the founder of Coco Studio X at that time, Zivang Walzer. Walzer came to India for a IGDC, if I remember the event, India Game Developer Conference or something like that in Bangalore. And I met with him along with three other lucky participants. I did spend some time with him, understand how did he come from Microsoft, and basically uh, they created this cross-platform engine from another iOS Coco Studio. And so that, along with my exposure to Moonfrog as well as Juego. So that, and the other thing is, I did spend a lot of time in the Coco Studio X forums, even though I was finding some solutions for myself. More than that, I used to religiously spend time in the evening just to know, someone has come across any problem or some things that I can contribute that I have faced while I was making. And this has made me to be very active on the in the forums. So you would see, like, even today, uh, I would have somewhere around more than 500 or 600 posts in the forum, and a lot of them were like rated. I'm not sure what's the actual term. Something like you upvote them those solutions, whatever I gave. And so that came into the eyes of, there was one more guy, Justin Graham, if I understand, that was his name. It was quite long ago, but some Justin something, I think Justin Graham. And there was one more guy. So along with Z, and a couple of other members who were the core developers as well as the business partners in Coco Studio X or Chukong at that time, they noticed that this guy from India, he's so much into Cocos, and he is helping the community without anything being paid. Like, I was just doing purely out of my heart. And this also came. I would cite you as an example. I saw you posting videos in on YouTube without charging anything, freely answering any questions that
Hmm.
beginners like me had at that time. And I thought of myself, I can contribute in some way. I have some knowledge and experience, because I was working with a professional capacity as well as I was doing prototypes. So that came into their eyes, and they offered me, basically, Pabitra, we would like to assign you as the regional coordinator of Coco Studio X in India. So I said that I'm very grateful for that. And so what do I have to do, actually? So they said that, like, you're doing really great, actually. You do not need to do anything else. If you want to represent Coco Studio X, and if you want to create any events in anywhere in India, we would be happy to like sponsor that. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity for me and people like me who are new to the gaming industry, people who are like not coming from a gaming college. I came from a purely software engineering college, like someone who was nothing to do with gaming. And I mean, my college has nothing to do with gaming. So I thought, like, people like me who are coming from that kind of background, they should know open source C++ engine, which, and they would find it easy rather than going into Unity, which was, I think, licensed at that time, as well as Unreal was just licensed or yet to be licensed, somewhere around that time, 2014, 2015. So I thought, like, this would be a great opportunity for a simple engine to make available to someone who wants to learn and who is familiar with C++. So I told them, okay, I would, I'm planning to make this basically a seminar, or a short intro kind of thing in Bangalore, because I was living in Bangalore at that time. And they were very happy for it. They said that, okay, we can sponsor it, whatever you need. And at that time, Rajesh Rao Dhruva, who is the director of Dhruva Interactive in Bangalore, and there are a couple of other branches of them as well. So he's the guy who has a lot of projects, uh, who are in collaboration with a lot of AAA studios across the world. And I was like quite junior to him in experience as well as in age, but I still uh, summed up my courage and asked him like, Dhruva sir, can I? This is something that I want to do, and would you be happy to share your location with me? I will pay whatever. No, no, no. There is no need to pay anything. We are very happy to host you. And when do you want to do? So I remember the first one was September 12, 2015 or 2016, one of these years, 2015 or 2016. Yeah. So I did that in Bangalore. To my so I did a lot of so I had created a Facebook page on behalf of Coco Studio X at that time. I was so much into Coco Studio X, and I did create an event, asked for a lot of people, and they did sponsor some goodies and all for people who attendees who were to come. And people to my fortune, people come from different places. They just didn't came from Bangalore. They came, some of the people came from Mumbai and Pune. Some of the people came from so there are some studios in Kerala at that time, if I'm correct. So some one or two people came from there. So it was 15-20 members. I would have some events and photos of that in my Facebook hanging somewhere. So, and I did present about Coco Studio X, how it is helpful for developers who are coming simply from a programming background, who knows only C++ or a language which is similar to C++, some object oriented language like C Sharp, Java, and how you can get into Coco Studio X, what are the components, how you can make games, what are the resources available, how I can help them, as well as how the community can help them, and what is the situation in India for Coco Studio X developers, how to find jobs. So I basically presented a 360 map over 1 hour or something like 1 hour or 2 hours in uh, Dhruva Interactive. And I'm very, very grateful that Dhruva sir came forward and helped me. And with his support as well as with Coco's. So I did my first event. And the second event basically happened the next year, which was in Feb 2016, I guess. Yeah. So the first one was 12th September 2015, and the second one was somewhere around February 2016. And this was the time when I was just about to join Moonfrog, and I had a hackathon uh, attended in Moonfrog, and I came as a winner or runner up. I don't remember correctly, but I was qualified for a job. So this was the criteria that whoever qualifies in a hackathon, it was called Games and Geeks. Whoever qualifies in their hackathon, they would be happy to offer a job to them. So I did qualify over there, and I had a offer with Moonfrog, and I did ask them like, this is something that happened last year. Would you guys be happy to host this? And I was yet to join them in another 15-20 days, and they said that yeah, we would be very happy. So we have our internal engine, which is Coco Studio X, plus some custom changes. So we will also be able to arrange 1 or 2 sessions from our tech leads, who will tell some of the cool things that they did on a cricket game that launched by Moonfrog at that time. I don't remember the name correctly, but I think it's called Smash Cricket or something like that. And so the second event was there. It was more people. All of the Moonfrogs developers joined. A couple of people who came in the first meet also came in the second meet. And then after there were a couple of other people. There was one guy I remember from Egypt at that time, Ray Delto Hernandez. He was a regional coordinator for Egypt at that time. So we all were doing this. Just you can think of as a community service. So I was not getting any benefit out of it. Neither did I ask. But I was being sponsored for whatever goodies were arranged for the attendees by Cocos and Chukong at that time. And so it went well. And they were quite in loop, because they were very interested in what Moonfrog was doing. And Moonfrog at that time, when I was working, was one of the hot startups in India in gaming, because they came from a lot of interesting backgrounds, and they created their first game, which was really good. They were hiring a really good talent. They were paying well. They had a very strong engineering presence in the market. And that's how the the Coco Studio X journey. It went for a couple of years until later on, like when I joined EA, I got quite busy, but I was still in touch with them. And somewhere in between, when I was a regional coordinator at that time. Uh, so Kai Zhao, who was another, I think, business lead, and they were starting a different division called SDK Box. And this was a company which had around 7 8 people at that time when I joined, and it was in Menlo Park, California. And I was working from Bangalore as a technical evangelist, support engineer kind of role. And it was a part-time role outside of Moonfrog. Once I come out of office, I usually attend 2 or 3 hours in the night, and I used to like work on it. It was a like paid basis, so they were really happy again to see, okay, Pavitra is helping a lot of people in the community. And my way of communication was very soothing, if I could say that. I wouldn't harshly respond to anyone, even though people would ask basic questions, because I know I came from a similar background. I did ask those questions to you, to other people, and I did get answers. So there's no point in being sarcastic, no point in being judgmental towards anyone, and just being a pure help. So they noticed that, and they said, "You are the only guy who could help us. You have great knowledge on Coco Studio X. You have worked a lot of different kind of games." At that point of time, I had already published six mobile games, and I was working with Moonfrog at that time. So they said that you are the guy who we are looking for, and we would be happy to like get you in our team. And that's how, like I said, that okay, guys, see, I cannot do full time, even though they were sponsoring a full time job. So I said that, I said, making games is something that I really enjoy, and I'm enjoying my time at this point of time in Moonfrog. But I would still be able to help you, and I did that. It went for about 6 7 months on a contract, and then after I got like seriously busy with, like I said, the schedules of release were every week in Moonfrog, and I got occupied a lot. I could not spend a lot of time, and I said that, guys, it's I am not able to spend that time, so maybe like we can connect on some other project. Later on, I found out that in 2021, I guess somewhere in November, or maybe November 2020, they announced that SDK Box is no longer operational.
They
From
shut it
what I have
down.
heard, either they have merged with Coco Studio X, or they have shut down the business. I cannot confirm what had happened. But yeah, I worked with a lot of people who were the community leaders at that time, who were actively managing the community, providing version updates, actively contributing to all the feature releases. So I worked with those guys. Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, with the SDK box day this year, they shut that down in 2021. Far as I'm
yeah,
aware, they did not integrate it into Cocos 2DX. The thing is, because they released Cocos Creator,
yeah.
and Cocos Creator has been very successful for them, from what I can tell, and they make money from that as well. So they have a method for making money through that. And if you look at Cocos 2DX, it hasn't been updated since 2019. So the
Mhm.
last version was version 4. They've had no minor versions since then, even though it does have some bugs and some problems. And obviously, it's been over 3 years now, and it doesn't need updates. So the reality is, it just SDK Box just wasn't getting the love anymore because they started focusing on Cocos Creator, so they abandoned that. I mean, I hope they don't abandon Cocos 2DX, but it's been 3 years without any updates. Their GitHub
Mhm.
page doesn't seem to be really getting updated. There's another project, I don't know if you've heard of it, called Axis, AXYS. You can find it if you type in Axis with
Okay.
Cocos 2DX at the end into Google. It's basically a community project that's based off of Cocos 2DX version 4, and fixing bugs, improving it, adding new features, and that's active right now. So that's where I would recommend to people that if you want to use Cocos, Cocos is great, but probably best look at Axis, because it is Cocos 2DX version 4 with a few syntax differences, but it's more up to date. And
That's
what
good.
made you what made you switch from Cocos to Unity and other stuff? Because obviously I remember you said yourself you was very heavy into Cocos 2DX.
Yeah,
It was like it was almost like your hobby. It was the thing that you loved to use. So
true.
what made you switch?
So couple of things. So I very simple answer is career happened,
Hmm.
and if I have to go a little bit deeper, then So the projects that I got once I joined EA, so they were more and more on the proprietary engines, and I did work on a couple of things, and it was also interesting to know because I came from a game engine which was open source. I used to go to all the modules. I can see what has changed, and I applied those similar knowledge and whatever I've learned over the years to the proprietary engines which were there uh, inside EA. And Coco Studio X was not that great with 3D, although they introduced a lot of things. While it was still like very experimental, and it was not. It was very raw. It was not production ready at this time, at 2015, 2016 kind of time. Uh, so I basically wanted to get into gameplay because that fascinated me. Okay, there are characters, there are a lot of animations happening. There's a lot of things that's happening. So I started learning a little bit about Unreal Engine, but it was quite a load on me. I could not basically figure out at that time what is the entry point to it, because like everything is quite used with Unreal, and the tutorials and the support from the, like currently how Epic is going on with their online learning. So it was, I would say, virtually absent at that time, and the resources were very difficult to identify. You had to find people who are good with tech art and to learn from them, from their previous experience with different projects. So I saw it's sort of a, at this point of time, it's too high end for me to basically figure out on my own. So what I did is, I started learning a little bit of Unity. And again, at this point of time, I had never worked on any project. It was just prototypes I was working on. And so what I did is, I did spend some time, and it was in C Sharp, which was quite easy to learn compared to the memory management that's there in C++. So I started making some raw projects by looking into uh, available tutorials from Brackeys and a couple of other guys who were there on YouTube. So, and this is how basically worked on a multiple of engines. To be honest, I started with Coco Studio X and worked for about closely 3 years, and then I worked on proprietary EA MT engine. There were a couple of other mobile engines within EA, Unity, Unreal, Frostbite, and so it just went on from one engine to another, and the challenges kept on increasing. And over the time, the touch with Coco Studio X just went away because I was more and more into learning, like just basically getting my whatever blocker that had me stopped at that point of time with Unreal. So now the tutorials were available. Epic was so good with releasing tutorials, and very frequent with their YouTube channel, updating Unreal Engine and all these things. So I thought like I have a good amount of experience now. I can jump into Unreal. So I basically jumped into Unreal, and I did the same thing what I was did with Cocos, again with the engine side on the C++, but it was more in line with the seniority that I was growing into, and onto the 3D space, which was requirement of a future. So yeah, that's how. Uh, and also, there are a couple of reasons, like you said, like it's not been updated since 2019.
No,
Uh,
it hasn't.
so what we did, it would be untrue to say I never worked with Coco Studio X after Moonfrog. EA had a project which was um, done on a very proprietary as well as an antique technology, and that project went on for 5 different studios and back to the origin. And whatever tools and technologies were done for the UI development, we could only generate binary but could not create anything new. So we had to create new levels and all these things for a really popular game. And so that's where one of this, at that time, a senior software engineer and me were working on a team. And we decided, let's integrate Coco Studio X as a UI framework to that particular proprietary engine of EA. And we spent a lot of time. And if you see my GitHub profile, there is also a C++ plugin that I built, and this was for Cocos Creator. So when Cocos Creator came to the market, it was in JSON, JavaScript only. and I spent a lot of time understanding, uh, getting some details, because at this point of time I had admin access to Cocos because I was still their representative in India. I had that access from SDK box. I was very much in sync with the devs. So what I did is I created a plugin for C++ because our project was in C++, and fortunately that worked, which unblocked us. And the senior software engineer, which about whom I spoke, he with his OpenGL as well as Metal experience has integrated Coco Studio X into a proprietary engine that we had as a UI development extension. And me that along with my plugin that opened the routes for one of these really popular games, Plant vs Zombies. And yeah, I think the team is currently using that as well as some of the other developments that they did on top of that, basically to create new levels. So that around 2017, 2018, there was a UI update which was sent to Plant vs Zombies one, which was done in Cocos as a UI framework. So yeah, I did use that. But yeah, eventually I jumped into a lot of other engines, just because purely in terms of I really love learning stuff, and that has always kept me on a loop to learn technologies. The reason my touch with Cocos was somehow severed, because there were a couple of other frameworks which got launched in the market. So Flutter came, which was a really breeze to work on. Then React was something that people were working, and so these frameworks came where development times and animations and a lot of other headaches which were there in Cocos, so these were not there. And along with that, like very streamlined backend plugins and all these things which Google and Facebook releases for them. So it makes a choice for any developer to create something quick. Although it's not a game engine, it's more of a app development, cross-platform UI framework as well as development framework. But it was something which was very quicker to prototype and to create tools. And so I could say that I had only one tool during the beginning of my career, which was Coco Studio X. But eventually, when I grew into the role, I got more senior, exposed into more technologies. I found better ways to like basically make things quicker and faster. So yeah, that's how the journey went on.
Okay. So just going back on to your time and experience at EA. So
Mhm.
EA, as you're probably aware, is pretty, again, truthfully or not truthfully, is known for, many bad reasons. Like one of the things that's considered, or like a lot of people hate EA is because of the treatment of their employees, especially, during, the so-called crunch time. Like
Mhm.
how was that for you? Did you experience it? Did you see any toxicity whilst you worked there compared to other studios?
It was actually quite opposite, like very, very opposite. So I'll tell you my story. So I was leaving my job in Moonfrog because I was looking for more challenges, and basically I was in that phase of life. And I landed this opportunity with EA in 2017 through a couple of rounds of interviews, cleared all of them. The interview process was quite lengthy at that time. So people had to make games and some prototype game and have to submit them on a theme concept. So and but like I said, I was on a hangover on making games. So at that time I was attending hackathon. So fortunately that along with a couple of interviews, so I landed a good opportunity with EA. So I had this in the back of my mind. I never knew that EA was under hate until at a very later point of time after I joined. So the back of my mind, what was running is I was not ready to change cities. I was quite happy. I started my career in Bangalore, and EA, as you know, is in Hyderabad. I was unaware about. I was my friends were in Bangalore, so I basically didn't want to leave. But life happened. It everything that happened for good. So I came to EA from a very fast-paced, agile, and what do you say, very sonic level development from Moonfrog into a very calm, composed, well balanced, well planned studio. In and My experience is only with EA Hyderabad and to the game teams that I worked on. So it's I cannot generalize this throughout the all the EA, But I'll tell you something that has changed in the last 10 years, 8 to 10 years. So what has happened is I work with I to and this some people would find this and yeah, just as a disclaimer, uh, at a later point of, like I said, at a later point of time, I figure out that EA is facing such a lot and a lot of hate. And this is when did I figure this out? In 2018, when I was going on, there was some visa process I was going through, and there was some of an incident that happened on a loot box for a particular game at that time. Then I
Yeah.
got to know, okay, EA is under a lot of online hate. I was like so surprised to it, to be honest. I said, I never, and I am saying this without any influence on anyone. I have no contract with EA to say anything. I'm not working with EA anymore, so I can bullshit them anything I want. But nothing of that sort has happened. I was quite surprised. Like, what are people saying about? In my 5 years of time, 2 years in pandemic, out of that, never in a single day, never did I work on a weekend. Never in a single day I was asked to work overtime. Never even a single day I was asked to, I was micromanaged for any reason. So it was quite a breeze to work with EA. On a when you talk about the processes and everything on a that level, right? And I was quite surprised, like, what are people bickering about? Like, I don't know what has happened with other studios because I've not worked with them. We don't have a lot of contact and exposure to other studios, what they're doing. And EA Hyderabad, the studio which I worked on, Slingshot Games, it's a mobile development studio, right? And I did work with a couple of other studios. They were even breezer to work with, the Seattle team as well as the Melbourne team, right? So I was quite surprised to see why there is a lot of, I mean, there is just a lot of anguish between people, maybe due to valid or invalid reasons, I don't know, because I did not spend a lot of time to find out. Some of the Reddit comments that I read at that time, people were unhappy about FIFA. I never worked with FIFA. I played probably a couple of times, that to just to join someone. So I was not aware what they are talking about. Maybe they were unhappy about a couple of the features because it was such a big project, right? It's not a small. It was a licensed game with EA. So every people has their own opinion and freedom of expression, how they want to say what they want. And there were some genuine things which happened, like that loot box. And trust me, I was not a part of this team. This happened on a different dice. I think it's dice, but I'm please forgive me if I'm saying it wrong. But I think it was, I think Star Wars Battlefront 2 was the game which created a bit of heat in between. To my knowledge, when I get to know that, okay, EA is under a lot of online heat. And I was surprised. They responded to the players at that time. Even I remember very very warmly, if I could put it that way. I was not a part of the team. I was not anyway involved in that, but they were very respondent to the players. Okay, this is something that players do not like. Take it out. Yeah, we will change it with something else. So to the 5 years as well as couple of years before, because I worked with couple of seniors who were in EA, and the reform when it started. I'm not sure how EA was when the crunch time and all these things were happening. I have heard about this throughout the gaming industry. This was the case, with especially with Ubisoft, with Rockstar. Uh, Again, I don't know. I have never worked with these companies. These are all online things which I've read in some of the other forums, and some of these hates were also for EA. That has changed a lot. If I could say, when Andrew Wilson, who is the current CEO of EA, when Andrew came, uh, and he was the CEO when I joined, and maybe a couple of years before that. So a lot of processes has changed. Everything is very streamlined. There is not a single point where you have to wonder and ask something about something. Everything is there in the portal. People are very happy to work with you. There are instances where some studios may uh, get into some kind of issues, but I'm not aware about that. I can talk about my studio. It was a breeze to work with, and I was very surprised. Even people asked me a lot of times. I used to go to a lot of conferences, game events, and oh, you work with EA, and this is what I've heard. I mean, dude, there is nothing like that. So that, along with, and this was being not only asked to me, and we went into a lot of forums inside India. I'm sorry about if there's a noise coming up, but a lot of forums in India, and we did hire from a lot of colleges. People were very happy and welcoming, and people did join us from a lot of good institutes from India, from NITs, IITs. We did score a lot of people recently with a change in our hiring plans. Uh, and with a couple of projects which ongoing and future opportunities and all. And so about online hate, truly I never faced any. If you look at Glassdoor, some people would have complained about something because it's very personal, right? You are not happy with your manager. He has nothing got to do with it. Maybe you didn't land the right opportunity, but they still strive to. My managers inside EA, I had three managers. When I joined, there was one guy who is currently with, I think, Saibo, and there were two other guys with that. Currently, none of them are inside EA. So very welcoming. They were very people centric. Our managers were that good because we were. I am a kind of guy who is not robotic. There are a lot of people who are. I'm very so rather than a very high IQ, I have a like high IQ and a really good EQ, or maybe you can say high EQ. So EQ is very important to me. I cannot connect with someone who is not who I cannot connect with an emotional level because I work on machines all day long. I cannot deal with people who are machines. So so in that sense, I got really good people who listened to me, who helped me in a lot of way, guided me, shielded me sometimes when there is miscommunication or something of that sort happens. There are things that happens when you work with other studios, right? There are sometimes miscommunication that happens. There were times where my managers were like shield to me. Okay, no, this is a conception that you have, perception that you made in, but that's not the case or something. But if your manager is not there with you, generally that bullet will hit you straight, right? And that has happened to me in other companies that I worked with. So I've taken a lot of bullets straight to my chest, and there were times where I my managers were like, oh, we are getting paid like in $500,000 a year. Like maybe I'm exaggerating a lot, but they were getting paid. Startups pay a lot in India. So we are getting paid excessively. We are from a lot of companies. Sometimes they do sidetrack. They do not pay a lot of attention to people who are just into the industry. Like I said, when I was in before EA, so I joined EA after completing 3 years, three and a half, something like that. So I did work with a lot of different kind of people who are warm, people who are not so good. They are rude and backstabbing at times. People who would genuinely go to any lengths to help you, people who will just shield them so that they wouldn't have to take the brunt of the blast. So my experience has been quite a roller coaster ride. So that's what I said. I This is EA is my sixth company. Divi, Juego Studio, Chukong Technologies, STK Box, Moonfrog, and EA. Right, and along with that, in between, I worked with a couple of other what do you call uh, third-party open source couple of stuff with other people on GitHub. So it's been quite different. So when someone you heard say that EA, there's a lot of hate. So it's just name calling. They personally have not experienced it. They are just reverberating what their friend circle or their like immediate vicinity is reverberating. So I don't think that's a good way to represent any organization. Yes, there are challenges in every place. There is no single place in the world where you would be completely, and not everyone will be completely happy. You can post your pictures. We are going this, we are going on this and that, we are going to foreign countries for whatever. So, but at the end of the day, not 100% of the employees will be satisfied. And sometimes these disgruntled employees, some of them has very genuine feedback which the company takes very positively, I'll say. There are a lot of instances where people, so he has a very open communication policy. It's not like top down, okay, this is your command, do it. It's not like that. It's very open policy. If I want, I it's never required. If I want, I can directly slack to Andrew Wilson. and everyone is allowed to, encouraged to. But that level of escalation is not required. Andrew is some 7 8 levels above them. Right? That level of escalation is not required. Your manager is more than equipped. If your manager cannot solve his manager is more than equipped. They are given that powers, so they can fix these things. And they genuinely, like, to be honest, there was one instance where I was unhappy on R&R. This happened when I joined EA. The first year I saw an R&R happened, and the next year some of my work got lost because they were doing R&R in a year, once in a year, and I was quite unhappy. I did some really good work. I thought, oh, why is this happening? So I did reach to a lot of people inside the studio who were on a technical leadership, technical directors, studio managers, and they were very happy. Like, we discussed a lot about this. They took my communication, my feedbacks very seriously, and that was escalated to the studio director, who was not inside Hyderabad itself. He was in Seattle at that time, and everyone in every step of the way knew what my feedback was. There was no what to say, no repercussions for that. There was no bitterness after I expressed my views. In fact, I was welcomed for that, and I was very happy with in that aspect. EA, in a current days of time, to my experience on what I worked with Hyderabad studio, and I think this is general across a lot of other studios as well, is a place where you would be really happy as an employee. I cannot say in terms of the expectation of the project that whether that will get satisfied. I cannot say whether the expectations of the salary will get satisfied to your requirement. But as a place, it's a very people-centric place. Like, my studio people have worked somewhere around 15 years, 16 years. They are celebrating, like, since the start of the, and these people are there still. They're still working in the company. These people are still there in the company, and new people are there. It's very warm and welcoming. So when I hear that there is some heat, I generally take that as non-discriminatory feedback from one of our players, because it's important to understand your players. Even at the end of the day, we are making games for them, so it's important what they want from us, because we are making games for them. There are some things we can fulfill quickly. You can see that in immediate updates, and we have done that in the past. There are some things which take time because of certain challenges. If you have to understand that a company which is a startup always try to, most of the startup companies always try to stick to latest technology. Their tech stack is like very new, and so they can make changes quite quickly. And when one of our player asks, okay, we want this and we want that, and you have to understand, like, a company of a scale of EA, who has not a single engine but multiple engines, multiple techs inside those engines, it takes a bit of time to, like, gather resources, develop features, test them thoroughly, and then hand it over to our players. So sometimes that frustration is also there. Why is it not coming up quick? uh, Trust us, we did spend a lot of time, especially on the games that I worked on, to address our player issues quite quickly. So yeah, so just general advice to people who are listening. So the next time when someone says about any company, like, it doesn't matter, I will be biased if I say only EA. Any company, Rockstar, EA, Ubisoft, or any startup company, or anything, any big company that is there, Microsoft is there, Amazon games are there, a lot of companies are there. Just take it as a something that you read on internet, because you have not experienced that. And if you have not experienced something, it's not good to blame the entire team or the entire company. Like, to my knowledge, at least EA has 30 plus studios over the world, or maybe more than that, and some 17,000 or 20,000 employees. I could be wrong on the figure here and there a little bit, but this many people are trying to make a game for the players, right? And the idea is not to make a lot of money. Yes, that's a part of the process. That's how we survive, pay to people, but eventually to make our players happy. But a company of ES scale, things take, like I said in the beginning of my podcast, some decisions take 6 months of time, some decision takes a year of time. This slow is because of a lot of reasons: revenue impact, technology impact, whether it's ready for the market, whether it's something that we really want to do. So yeah, there are a lot of things. People who work in the gaming industry, they generally do not question these things because they know. But it's just for our players. Uh, Not saying because I worked with EA, I have no obligation or anything. I'm not getting paid because I've read somewhere that in either in Glassdoor or Reddit that people who do say good things about EA are generally paid. I'm not getting paid a penny. I'm not working with EA anymore as well. So I could have bullshitted anything I want. So no, but this is the genuine thing. This in my experience. I'm not sure what other people have gone through, but yeah, that's the case.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you're right. Obviously, I've read stuff about EA, about Rockstar, about a bunch of other games studios, but until you're working there, yeah, there might be an element of truth, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily the whole company. It's not necessarily everyone, and like I say, until you're there, you don't know. Okay, so before I ask the next question, let's take a quick little bathroom break, and then we'll continue. So I'm just gonna hit pause, and then we'll be back momentarily.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, we are back from a little bathroom break, and okay, so Pabitra was just talking about his experience at EA, and what are you currently working on now, and why did you leave EA? Because you was there for 5 years. I think that was your longest position post uni.
Yeah, yeah. So I was, yeah, that's so. This is the longest that I worked for any company, and yeah, I recently left. Not, I think, couple of months ago, about 1 or 2 months ago, and it was just on a phase of life where I was exploring something new, and I was also starting to think of building something on my own. And I, after after a couple of months of thought, I decided this is a time where I'm financially more stable. I could build something that I really want on my own, and I had that skill, experience, as well as support from a lot of people. So I thought at that point of time, and the best part is currently at my hometown, so I'm with my parents. So that is another boon that has happened because of the pandemic, and so everything was in favor. I thought like maybe I'll create something really interesting, and I was working on some projects on my own, as well as like just creating and jumping on startup ideas that comes to my mind. So at this point of time, there is no official confirmation that I'm doing planning to do any company or anything like that. But I was just exploring on some ideas. I thought, and it was like 8 years. It's not a short time. Generally, companies, people who work on a very long time, they do take a sabbatical. So I did sponsor my own sabbatical. I thought like maybe I'll take some couple of months of time for me. I will just explore. I will do something on my own to learn some things, because there are a lot of things that comes up, and you are not able to keep up with a lot of things. Like there's Unreal Engine. I'll tell you, someone who is knee deep into development, very serious about their career into software engineering. There are a lot of things that comes into play. You start with very raw and crude examples of making games or making any kind of project. Then there is two division. Then your client engineering is there, and backend or server engineering is there. And we started with client engineering. I was not a full stack engineer, so that part is there. I have to learn a full stack engineering now, because that is something which mobile requires a lot. You cannot be a developer who just makes games which are just clients. It's not authoritative. You cannot create multiplayer. No one likes that, except for a few game genres. Most of our current games are like very engaging and multiplayer. Uh, so your backend engineering knowledge, at least you should know, rather than being an expert or someone who has deep knowledge, you should be familiar with. So I have familiarity. I'm just deepening my knowledge a little bit. There's a lot of game engine that you need to keep up with if you are going in that lane. Unreal Engine is there. Just Unreal Engine is fine if you are starting with, because a lot of proprietary engines, like Rockstar's advanced game engine, I think they call it Rage. I'm I've not worked with Rockstar. This is just I've heard from one of their employees. It's very similar to Unreal Engine. Ubisoft's engine is also very similar to Unreal Engine, is what I've heard from ex employees. ES Frostbite is also very similar to Unreal Engine. So just one engine is required to understand, and you will work with. There are just names and tools which are different. And assets are called different names. Its user interface is different, but Unreal Engine is there to help you out. So that is there. Backend engineering, Unreal Engine. You have to be good with design patterns, because you are not creating something simple. Games are like some of the most complex of softwares. People do not realize this. People who have never worked on a gaming domain, someone who comes from rather I would say a web development background, will think as server as something which is like everything, right? And client is, oh, they are creating HTML, CSS, and other kind of nonsense. So that's not there. Your client is like super smart in especially in terms of games and applications. There are a lot of states that you need to manage, a lot of memory management, a lot of so it's from UI to networking to physics to like gaming has like a lot of divisions, and you cannot be no, I do not know anyone calling them an expert in all of these divisions. There might be some crazy people uh, who are like the gurus of the gaming, like literal gurus, not people calling them gurus. So except for those people, maybe like a lot of us who work even with a very senior level, we have a general idea. If time is being given, we can explore and we can find solutions, but no one can say that we are like super intelligent and super aware of all the modules that are there in the game: audio, network, physics, gameplay, UI, AI. So that's impossible. It's quite a extensive domain. So you have to be, once you grow into the role, you will be in the lead. I'm currently a lead, so I know I need to be at least have a high level knowledge and somewhat middle to low level knowledge in these technologies. So there is uh, generally a lot of learning that comes. And when I say that, people, like I said, people like me who are knee deep and who take the career and job very seriously, uh, especially because I want to grow. And I will give an analogy at a later point of time. But just at this point of time, someone who wants to master this art of game development, so they have to go through along with the things that they learn from their job, which is actually a bonus. If you ask, if you work in a good workplace, like I said, I worked with teams who are very organized from end to end, with massive people working in a team. So that's a boon. You now have a experience working in such a team like that. And two teams where there will be only two or three guys who are like super seniors and like literally principal levels or more than that, and they would be working on some core level which would be outside the minds of junior engineers, like, oh, this is not possible, but these guys would make it work. So to reach to that level and beyond, and especially in IC role, which is an individual contributor role, if you're a manager, 5 years, 6 years of work, and then high level understanding. To what I have seen in the gaming industry, this may be true for other or not. I cannot say, but a general high level overview. You A manager is someone, or at least a tech lead, who is not actively involved in development. He is not 100% hands on in the development or coding. When I say development, I'm talking about programming. So not 100% into programming, but like somewhat 20-30% into programming, and rest of the things in managing and business and all. So I'm not that guy. I'm an individual contributor. So for me, it's quite a challenge to keep up and learn things day in day out. I don't have a lot of circle to uh, walk around. My friend circle and everything else is like very limited. I do spend a lot of time in my home with my family. If I'm not around with my family, then maybe I'm in front of my laptop, learning something or the other. And I do, like, if you see, I'm just bluffing. You can just pull up my LinkedIn and see my last 3 years or 4 years of post in December 31st. I generally do that. I picked up this habit from one of the recruiters, which I saw them 4 5 years back, and it's around a lot of things: software engineering, Unreal Engine, general practices as a senior engineer, design patterns, design principles, software architecture. It's a lot of things. And books will not only help you. So there are a lot of books. Even to know which book to pick up is a challenge. So my time spends finding people on LinkedIn, going through, just subscribe to them. There are some really cool guys. Thankfully, recently, so once I started learning backend engineering a little bit into more seriously, Alex Zhu, who is the author of System Design for Interviews, I think is the book name, Alex Zhu, and currently there's a second edition from San Lam. So he started a YouTube channel with really cool YouTube videos with really good graphics and animations, which makes really good for developers to understand. Like, or very junior level developers can also understand that really well. So I started following that. There's this guy, and yeah, I forgot one important part: C++. The standard gets changed every 3 years. There are a lot of things that comes. Gaming companies are at the forefront of this. A lot of studios that you may see in the gaming domain, they have to keep up with the updated version of C++ because the game engine is updating, their plugins are updating, their everything is updating. Else, the bottleneck will get hit, and the games will get slow, or some other kind of challenges will come. So C++14, C++17, C++20, now 23 will come in a couple of, I think, the next year or sometime, or maybe it has already started drafted. So we have to keep up with a lot of stuff, and yeah, this is true for other people working, maybe someone who is working on a backend, maybe managing a new database service, something like that. I'm not sure. I have not worked in those domains, so I'm not able to say what's happening. Everyone has a learning curve, and that's how software engineering works, especially in an IC role. And so all these things are there. So there's a lot of learning, and my time usually off office hours, I and this is due to my hobby. I do spend somewhere around 4 to 5 to 6 hours every day, most of the time. Even weekends. Weekends I spend even more because I don't have any work. So as long as the food criteria is met, I'm with my laptop along with other chores, whatever chores are there for the home. So that's how people in the gaming industry who are in the IC role generally spends time. Who want to go to the next role. So I'll just give you a brief on what's the hierarchy in EA. I'm sure there are like similar hierarchies. So EA has a SC1, SC2, and then an SC3, and then there's an SSC. So by the time you are an SSC, you would be somewhere around 12 to 15 years with. So that guy is sort of like a general SSC. Then there is senior SSC. So these are very few people. Senior SSCs or principals are very few people inside EA, like a handful, because these are the guys who can create a company on their own, just working on a single product. I mean, they are that level of good. I think in Facebook it's called L6 or L7, something like that. I'm not familiar with the L7. I think it's called L6 or L7. So I want to reach to that level. I'm not sure how much would I be, because I do not compare. There is nothing to compare to. There is no yardstick that you will say, okay, this is something that means there is some satisfying criteria that a company might set you for, but you know for yourself where you are, and you do have to work your way through all the challenges. And it's not a terrible thing actually. People who generally do love um, learning things, these are the people who generally do well in the software domain, because the very niche term of software engineering means you will solve problems, right? And that problems comes in many forms. Obviously some people get into the gaming, managing, and all other roles. I being an IC, I never thought of the business line because I don't care, especially on the finance part, but I do care how the product will be, how my team is managing. So on a tech lead level I am there, but I'm not a people manager. I cannot leave my hands off coding, and basically I'm like, I'm quite happy to spend 100% of my hands in coding. At least I could do it 90%. And if 10% of my time is required to manage my team, I'm happy with that. So yeah, there's a that's a hell lot of learning that you need to do. People generally do not think this when they are coming into any industry. They think that okay, we have done our masters or bachelors or something, and now it's time to earn money. We'll jump studios and all. So, and no, that's not the case. You have to learn. Like, I think until unless you do not retire, you still have to learn for a lot of years, and it's interesting. It's not boring. So yeah, sorry. That's how I spend my time.
Okay. And just wanted to ask you about the recent Rockstar leak. Have you seen the Rockstar leak with GTA 6? What do you
Yeah, I
think
saw
about it
that
if you've seen it?
yesterday in IGN. I think released some, and Rockstar in Twitter released something. I'm, I'm
Have you
I
seen
I've
the
seen some
clips?
screenshots. I think in one of, I don't remember which what thing I was reading. I think probably in IGN only. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, just give me a second. My laptop got locked. So, yeah, I saw them. I think through a link in IGN. Some, I would say, in development photos. Uh, I played GTA 5. I have not seen those locations, so obviously they are GTA 6. And since Rockstar has confirmed, uh, it's see, it's not that of a to personally. I'm not speaking on behalf of any company or representing my behavior as um, anything that would continue as my professional courtesy, but something that I think personally, it's not that of a big deal, like to me as a player or maybe as a developer personally. But I don't know to the extent what is released. I just want to clarify
Mhm.
that I've just seen a couple of images which had debug draws, IMGUI windows, and some of them like some images. I've not any videos or anything, uh, just on a glance, because every morning I go through news and Google News, and this was one of the thing that came. And I was little sad. They said that what happens is, if games get released quite early, uh, you would be sidetracked and distracted a little bit, because I'll tell you, even though we were making a mobile game, and it was a triple A scale mobile game, uh, with a team of 200 plus for 2 years or 3 years in development from prototype to, it's a lot of money, right? And on a business standpoint, on something, think of this as yourself. You want to buy a house, right? You in the central London, you want to buy a house, and you have just seen how, obviously this is different in architecture domain, they generally show you a model, but you go to an unfinished building, right? And you do not know what's the view of the architect. You do not know how the end product will look like. You do not know what kind of say sanitary ware or bathware or doors or wood they would use. And at that point of time, you are not in their shoes to get an informed or end-to-end understanding what's happening. And when these things get into this kind of leaks get into players' hand, it's generally a to my understanding, it's generally a load for the company, because it's still in development. Now what happens is, there are two ways they can go about it. Either they can sort of like a fireproof it, uh, and the other way is fireproof it in the sense is like they will still go with those plans. And obviously these are not final release assets, so there would be changes, so you wouldn't even notice. But eventually, if you enough has been released in the market, you can still recognize. Like for example, that what is that that bar in GTA 5 with that guy, that idiot guy. Uh,
Trevor.
yeah, yeah. So if, say for example, if something like this has already launched, a part of your interesting gameplay has launched. Now see how interesting is that, right? You, that area, as well as your, that some of the places where police stations are there, where you can go and throw a bomb and then take a police car, run away. So these are all the things which are reserved for the players to relish the game, and they should see this when there is a, either through an official channel, through a trailer, or through a gameplay, something like the IGN and other guys do, through a gameplay trailer. And they would be interesting at that point of time, because the game is not far away, it's coming, right? And that has a lot of impacts on the revenue, user base, and a lot of other things. And even though the games are released at that point of time, to my knowledge, 90-95% of the bugs, or maybe 98% of the bugs, are solved. But there are still places here and there where glitches happen, and that's true for a lot of places, and these are being actively worked on. Even that's why you get updates in mobile as well as in AAA. Feature updates, bug fixes, patches, everything gets done. And if it goes too early into players' hand, they will sort of lose interest. Oh, this is what we have seen. We know this gameplay. I mean, uh, just imagine some cool gameplay that you have found recently. Maybe let's take GTS example only. I've not played that much. I just finished the single player, but I whenever I feel bored, I usually open that. If I don't have to go anywhere, it's raining outside, I open GTA and I roam around. Yeah, that's really interesting to do. So there is some piece of uh, gameplay which would be really interesting to the player. If that comes really early, that it sort of turns into a boring element later on in the game. You sort of like, oh, this is because there is nothing new, you have already learned about it, right? There is an element of learning, there is an element of challenge. Even though you race in Forza, there's a time limit that need to be beat, and you get to know after failing 5 or 6 or 7 times, okay, this is the route. I do not need to take the what do you call that, properly laid out route. I can go through the mountains, I can go through the forest to reach a quicker destination. So, and if that is already told to the player, okay, just take a right from this street and you will reach this challenge faster, it just takes the fun out. And game is fun, right? We play for fun. Even though what kind of genre you play doesn't matter, whether it's competitive, whether it's like platformers, whether it's MOBA games, any kind of game, racing, first person shooter, clash royale kind of what do you battle royale kind of games, any game it is, it's just for the fun of the players. Although I do not support violence inside games, but that's for the fun of the players. And these kind of activities, yeah, it's I would say, in a very dubious distinction, that it's a sort of a badge in the hacker's chest that okay, he has done this. Maybe it's an achievement for him. But think of it as like you have what do you say, you have, see, what they have done is, yeah, uh, they would themselves will be gamers. Lot of hackers that I know around the world, they have publicly come up, and people who are like white hat, they are not like dark hackers. So they come up and they said they themselves play games, right? And these are the people who find vulnerabilities in games as well as in other software systems and all. So they themselves know what is the challenge, what is the pain of creating something like this. So this is just a what do you say, a satanic activity, if I could put it that way. So there's nothing more than that. And yeah, whatever has happened. I think Rockstar, especially GTA, his what has been created in GTA 5. If GTA 6 is even or 20% or 30% improvement on top of that, people will play. It's that engaging. It's a solid open world game, lot of things to do, and that too I'm not playing in that what do you call that, online mode, because I get anxiety. Gaming online has been a very toxic in the recent years, because anyone comes and they shoot you. I mean, what's the fun in it? Just play with the other player. You have to kill everyone, and you, this is very sick mentality. So, and this is something that's going on in the forums, and we are also not happy about it. But that's how it has turned into. The companies are making a lot of effort into containing these behaviors. I mean, we are not blocking, to my knowledge. I have not worked on any games, but from what I have gathered through my years of working, is companies do restrain these kind of activities, foul languages, as well as these kind of activities, which generally produces anxiety. So I'm a kind of person who do not play these battle royale games, because I get a serious anxiety attack. Someone has come and shot me, so I know that I'm not dying personally, but I get feel really irritated. Like, you are like 30 seconds in the game and then you are dead, you have to wait for another 5 minutes until the map is over. What kind of nonsense is this? So, but yeah, some people enjoy that. I personally do not. I like games which are racing, which are like, okay, come and challenge me, rather than I kill you, or this what do you call that, Game of Thrones kind of mentality, who will sit on the throne. It's a good show, but I don't like that kind of mentality. I believe in challenge, sort of like, if I had to put it in the game terms, that what's a Street Fighter kind of way. Those kind of games I really like. Beat me with your skill. You kill me, you wait me, you will make your badge. That's not good. It should be interesting, and these are the games that I really like to do. I consciously choose my games. It would be surprising for the players and to people who might be uh, considering working on any place. So if tomorrow, and this is been done recently as well. So one company reached me who is currently making a game which is similar to PUBG, and I straight away denied their offer. I was paid. The offer was what the salary range was good. It was a well paid job. It was for a very renowned company. It was an on site opportunity. Um, Everything was like plus 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 plus, and they told me like this is basically the game. I said no, sorry, I cannot work. It's against my ethics. I do not want to, because the reason why I started making games or thought of making games 18 years ago is just to make players happy. I'm a kind of person who makes anyone happy. Like there are some instances where I was nasty in my early years, but sort of I got into that spiritual world, and that has always been there. I just wanted to make people happy, and not that pseudo happy that you see in Western world these days. Sorry if I'm fingering, uh, pointing fingers at someone, but that is like okay, you are influencer, I will make you happy, be in your circle. I'm not that kind of. I generally want people to be happy, and this is the reason I started making games, because through my games I wanted to make people feel, oh, we had a really good time, we enjoyed it, oh, we were challenged, sort of in a virtual world. Obviously you cannot take a Ferrari and drive in a like autobahn and cross over and jump and go into mountains. You should not do that, those kind of things. Or neither you should take a gun and roam around streets. Unfortunately, that's happening. It's really pathetic. I don't know what's going on with the people with this kind of mindset. But yeah, even sadder is that it's a legal law that these people can carry weapons. So thankfully, it's not that case. That's not the case in India and a lot of other country. So we are at peace. So I do not support neither on a personal level nor in even in a gaming level. So I strictly keep myself away into these kind of opportunities. I straight away deny. Doesn't matter what kind of money they offer, what kind of scope or job opportunity it happens for me in the future. I just, as I said no recently to one of the project, and I will keep on doing so. I do not believe. See, there is something which is virtual, which people understand it's virtual. But if it crosses the limit and plays with the mind of the people, then it's you have to do something. As a developer, what I can do, I cannot tell the company, oh, you have invested millions of dollars, you think it will make billions of dollars for you. I oppose this. What I can do is I'll just simply say benevolently that, see guys, this is against my ethics and I do not want to continue, or I don't want to work in this project. So this is what I've done in my capacity. So yeah, that's there.
Okay, I mean that's definitely an interesting point of view because I know a lot of people would say, okay, they've got a job opportunity. You're saying at PUBG or Call of Duty or whatever the game is, and the studio is I want to work on it, especially because it's a big game. Because that's one thing I didn't notice
Hmm.
on your LinkedIn profile. Obviously, it explains it now. Was that all the games that you worked on whilst at EA?
Yeah,
They were all pretty. I wouldn't say casual games, but they weren't
yeah,
violent games because you worked on Plants vs Zombies, two different ones of that. You worked on Tetris, you worked on Need for Speed, you worked on Real Racing. All games that are played, all games that do like especially Need for Speed and Real Racing.
yeah,
But like they were not shooters. Obviously, EA is such a big company, you could
yeah,
have a career just working on these type of games. But
yeah.
I mean that explains why. Did you ever get the opportunity whilst at EA to work on games that were more sort of shooting and more violent based?
Yes, there was.
What
So I
games did they?
wouldn't have joined, but I was also not a part of those projects. But I was considered at the time to work on one of the Battlefield games. And to be honest, they are not. I mean, if you play the single player, it's it's in a defined environment, right? You are playing against CPUs.
Yeah.
They are not real people connected over internet, and so that is a controlled environment, and that also depends on the kind of gameplay it is, right? So for example, I wouldn't develop something like again, I'm again making a very bold statement in very early phase of my career, but this is something I strictly abide by my ethics, so I can say this. I wouldn't make something like a PUBG where I know the people who are in the game are real persons connected over network, and there is a possibility of serious anxiety attack, as well as there is a possibility of addiction. Games are generally addictive because they give you fun. anything that gives you fun, if you do not have control over there, it's an addiction. See, very simple example, you love candy, and that's why you love Candy Crush Saga as well. So so these games, they or maybe the food itself, the sugar itself in the candy, if you do not have a control over yourself, it's addictive, and over the years of time you will die with diabetes, so, because you do not have control. There are some restrictions. Parents do tell you, oh, you cannot have more than one candy or two candy a day. You should not eat these kind of chocolates or something like that. Like I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but to younger generation. I'm sorry about the noise. So that happens, and with the games as well, like very non-serious games. Candy Crush is like a very good example. It's very sweet, very sound is very melodious, it challenges you in a right way. It tickles your brain to think analytically, tickles your brain to like come up creative to solving a particular puzzle, but it's still very addictive. So, and these online games nowadays, and especially with the with what do you call that, live chat server or live that mic, people put on a mic on their head and they just speak whatever comes to their mind.
Oh yeah, they
For
start
fun and games.
swearing at each other. They start saying stuff they never would in real life.
Yeah. So that, I mean, inside the game when they are playing this kind of PUBG and all, so there is, rather than shooting, there's a lot of other things goes on. I'll tell you a real story. So my nephew, who is currently, I think in sixth standard, right? And I went to his home this year, like in the beginning of this year, and that guy, he was in school, and he know about Minecraft so much. I never played Minecraft. I know people who have. One of my roommate had, and that guy was like super addictive. That guy was a bug of a Minecraft, right? He was so impatient in his like, children are generally, they are, what do you call, uh, uh, they cannot think about something very prolifically and then tell you in a very wise way. That's not the case. But there is a certain level of stability of mind which is there. When I was a child, I can relate to that. Oh, no, no, we were little naughty, maybe adamant, and in those lines when something was not given to us, but we were never this kind of, I would go to the extent and say, sort of a narcotics level of addiction, right? And I was so sad to see this. That guy could not, he's so young in his age, he cannot talk for 5 minutes straight without changing 20 to 30 topics. I mean, he'll ask this, he will ask that. Either that's that ADSD or whatever problem is there in the medical term, I do not know. Either it's that, but I can relate that it's mostly due to gaming. And he himself has told me that I'm his father's cousin brother. So I think he is my nephew. I'm not good with relations to name them, but I think he's my nephew. So he basically told me that, Kaka, this is that what I'm doing in Minecraft. You can shoot, you can do this different kind of mouse tapping techniques to shoot faster, build faster. I was like, dude, you should be focusing on your studies. Like, how long do you play? So I play 8 hours a day. I work 8 hours a day. You play
That's a
eight
lot.
hours a day.
8 hours a day.
Yeah. I mean, a child who is in sixth standard in school. I mean, that kind of addiction has gone into game. And these are the games, and these parents do not understand the extent of it. They just get frustrated with it, right? I mean, why you are not spending time with your school homeworks, or whatever general geeknum do, right? The generally Asian parents are like that. Either we are an engineer or a doctor or something like that, right? It's less than that is not acceptable, and it's not because of the parents. That's the ecosystem. Like, whenever in the world you go anywhere, you say, "Oh, you are from India. That must be tech guy." Yes, yeah, we are either doctors or tech guy, because that's inbred into the culture of like the South Asian countries, and in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, certain around China, right? And and I was so unhappy that time looking at my nephew, and also I was so worried for him. Like, these kind of behavioral patterns are not easy to erase. They are on a level of, like I said, narcotics level of addiction. So I refrain myself to work on anything which would closely relate to this. But there are certain games. I would be wrong to say I do not play those games. So I do not play PUBG like in that kind of level. PUBG, or what is that, Fortnite. Even EA released Apex Legends after like somewhere in 2018 or something. I never played that. I just opened one time. I saw I had a free access for a couple of weeks or a week or two. I saw someone killed me. I stopped the game, uninstalled it. That's all. And but I do play Forza. I do play GTA 5, even though that shooting element is there. These are not real people. I never play online, right? And never get into that chat server or like that whatever they talk to online over people and trash over whatever foul things you have in your mind. So I do not do these things. So I play Sniper Elite. Sniper Elite is one of my favorite IPs. I've been playing it since Sniper Elite 1, 2, 3, 4. Currently, I think they released 5 or something. And it was coming as part of Xbox Game Pass. So I was playing that. In that game, there is nothing. I mean, you are shooting robots. You are just making your precisions, taking aim, holding your breath, that kind of thing. So it's more of a skill development rather than killing people. So that kind of games are interesting to develop as long as there is not a, I mean, there is also an element to that. And I was playing this, there is, I forgot what the feature was called in Sniper Elite 5. um, Someone would be there in your network if you allow that, and they can see you and they will find and hunt you. It's just give me anxiety attack. I mean, play your game. People, developers spend a lot of time creating single player, that environment, those characteristics and all. But that's my personal view. A lot of people enjoy players, a lot of things, but there is a certain boundary which is not to be crossed, and I try from my side ethically to not cross that boundary. And I decide to myself whether is this something which will include something where that kind of scenario will happen, where people will start to come online and kill each other on guns, on any other medium. I mean, when someone gives you a what is that fatality in Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
that's not, even though a real player is playing along with you, it's not real. It doesn't hit your mind that way. There's no anxiety. But these kind of games in recent years, I'll tell you, what is that game that I used to play in college? uh, Counter Strike, CS 1.3, 1.6, and then I think CS Go. That was somehow, uh, I didn't enjoy that much because I was not that tactical. But I used to play with my friends, uh, sort of on a, these people. Say, for example, if you play with a known person, that's how, because I'm not in favor of generally uh, what you call a harsh online game like I said, a battle royale, because you do not know these people. And there are a lot of perception that happens, and there are a lot of people who, for these things, doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter anything. They just play the game, they will get over it. But to a lot of people, they get into a lot of serious issues, they get into depression, they relate to their things in life with the things that are inside the game. I mean, these are not real. And so that's why I refrain myself. At least what I could do best is not to encourage as well as not to involve in creating this kind of games. I mean, there are a lot of studios that are making a hell lot of games in the world, right? It's not that bad of a world. That's not that bad of a scenario in the world that I cannot land any other opportunity than working in this. Right? If anything doesn't work, my savings will save me for a couple of years till I land into a right opportunity. So that's my mindset. I'm not a puppet, but generally there are people who do not mind. Oh, it's a great opportunity, the pay is good. I do not care. I did not create that feature, so I'm not responsible for it. So these are the kind of things which, say for example, you will say, oh, I did not create the atom bomb. It was just a theoretical project. I mean, I'm just saying anything at this point of time, but I'm that level frustrated with this kind of activities. And so I made it a point in my hand from the very start that I will make games which are fun for people to play. Little competitive, but not in a level that people will get into a mental issue. So that's my stance.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, we've been going for over an hour and a half. It's been a great podcast so far. I've got two
Yeah.
more questions before I wrap up. I actually had a huge list of questions, but we've just been talking about your career and everything, which has been fantastic, really insightful. And I think all the listeners will love that as well. So what we'll do is let's do the last two questions that I've got allocated for today, and the rest of the list of questions we'll do a separate podcast in the future, and we'll have you on again, Pavitra, and we'll go through the rest of the questions because it's
Yep,
been really insightful.
I'd be happy.
Sometimes people don't give that much answers, but you've been given a lot of context. So my last two questions. The first one is you've talked about multiplayer, you've talked about single player. What do you think of, it's not just EA, but just studios in general, taking away focus off multiplayer portions and focusing more on single player portions, focusing more on the multiplayer, bringing in DRM that, heavily restricts you from playing single player easily because you have to be connected or, connect and give some sort of verification, even though if you're playing,
Mhm.
offline. So what do you think? What's your opinion on big studios approach
Mhm.
to single player versus multiplayer? Plus, also when you've got talking about Rockstar, they had GTA 5 on PS3. I remember when that first came out in 2013,
Mhm.
9 years ago. And they had it on the PS4. Then they had the remastered version just recently on the PS5. So they've had the same game over 9 years across three different generations, and obviously on PC as well. So they're making billions of dollars. I think they made over $10 billion on from GTA 5, and most of it's come from the online. So obviously it's hard when you hear that. And do you think, okay, they're pushing off something like GTA 6 because they're making so much money from GTA 5? So what's your whole opinion about the single player, multiplayer stuff with big studios?
Yeah. So I'll just say what my personal opinions are about the thing that you spoke in the last, which is like pushing things a little far, or maybe like delaying some stuff because they are making money. Yes, that's very evident into a lot of projects that I've worked on. If it's something working, something making money, it's good, because at the end of the day, it's making profit for the company. Players are happy, and they are also able to pay the people who are working in the company. So it's a win-win situation for all of the concerned parties. So saying that, it depends, if the game is very engaging, if there is something new not to offer, it's better to push the game if it's still working. I'll take an example. The I think Plant vs Zombies 1 started somewhere around some 11, 12 years back, if I'm correct. It's more than 10 years for sure, because I remember that 10-year cake when I was in EA. And we are getting a lot of organic downloads still. No advertisement, nothing. People love the game, people love the genre, they come and play. So is there a need to make a new game? Yes, if you have something new in terms of gameplay to offer, which is like Plant vs Zombies 2 is a little different. I've never played, just saw some videos. PVZ, I made PVZ 3 as well as worked on PVZ 1, so I know how those games are. PVZ 3 is not released to public completely. It was launched for a short time in some countries, and then it was pulled back because the feedback that they got was they need still some development, maybe some change in gameplay. They listen to the players, and something is going on. It's still in development. So I'm just talking about the things which I worked on, and I'm not uh, giving any details, obviously, because it's an in development game. But I just worked on it, and it makes sense for companies to take this kind of strategy, as because your core IP is there. When I talk about say what kind of game, NFS, right? So people love NFS. It's been there for generations. I when I was, like I said, when I was in school, I played NFS 2 at that time, and that's where I made my mind. Or maybe something before that, when there were those cassette games were coming, Duck Hunt, Mario, Super Contra. So at that time, I made my mind. Okay, now people will. We are still living. I mean, who will not play a Double Dragon game at this point, this time? I mean, we have played those games when. Uh, yeah, I am not aware of any modern game that has come with that level of gameplay or interesting with Double Dragon, or I would have paid for it, because people generally try to preserve. It's sort of an asset to them. It's a live event. That's why I said it's you need to make it a happy experience, because whatever has happened, if they are not on a state of mind, either spiritually or a mentally developed mind, they will hold on to these events for a very long time. And people generally do not suffer the happy events that they've come across life. They do not even remember them. I mean, when do a lot of people remember their parents had a smile on them, they had a really good laugh? They remember, or if for that matter, your girlfriend, your partner, or anyone. Like, why only parents? There's a bickering about in the Western world not to live with parents. We Indians are very happy. I'm an Indian and I'm very happy. I'm fortunate to live with my parents as long as they are there. So it's there. Anyone, be it anyone in your life, you if you ask someone, okay, tell me 10 happy events that you did in the last 2 years, it will take a lot of time. Tell me 10 bad events. Oh yeah, this happened, that happened, that happened, that happened. That will go outside of the notebook, like how the things that they need to write, because people attach with these kind of things. So if it's a negative experience, it's generally not good in the gaming domain. If we do not try it to, because that's not money making for us. If you see in terms of gaming, in terms of as a business, it's not money making for us. Like if players are not happy, so we generally try to create an experience which is better. So sometimes it makes sense to push up a legacy project for a couple of years, rather than pushing something new which is not enticing and which is not capturing the essence of the IP. So that has happened with a lot of projects that I worked on. And that happens, games get pulled as well. They are not released. They spend a lot of time, they see players are not ready, or this gameplay mechanic is not working. Whatever millions of dollars has gone, let's think of it as a learning. Keep that, shelve that project. At some point of time later, any number of projects that has happened with in the outside EA, throughout my 8 years of journey, and that's still happening. It will happen. So about single player and multiplayer, I personally love playing single player games. There is a story to it. There is something which is well defined, which has states. Uh, you are in a controlled environment, right? Even though within GTA 5, there was a single player, a set of events which ran for a couple of chapters. I think you can download some more chapters by paying more or something like that. I generally do not pay games which are not that interesting. So, and I do not generally do not pay for mobile games. That's an irony. I do work on mobile gaming industry. 13 of my titles are in mobile, but I generally do not pay for mobile games because there's a
Yeah,
reason.
it's hard
Uh,
to warrant it.
yeah, I do not like the grind. I am giving. So let's say you tell me, see, this is a really fantastic game. So let's take a hypothetical example. GTA 6 comes next year or maybe this year, whenever that comes. They say we are giving the entire world and all the things unlocked to you. Maybe you can unlock something on your skill based points or when you reach certain level. That's fine. We will give this entire world without any locks to you, and you have to pay us $100. I'm okay. Take $100. Give me the game, because I know what kind of pain a game development team goes to make that kind of game. Even a simple mobile game which is made on a AAA scale. Oh God! I mean, so many super talented people working for years on overtime with a lot of pain. I mean, I'm talking about a studio where the crunch was zero. I'm talking about those people who are working in a studio, or at least my earlier companies, where we used to stay for a day or two in the company because there is something broken. We would release something because Friday is the deadline. Friday is the deadline for this particular release. Even though it's not going to player's hand, it is the release time. We have to stay Friday night. We have to stay Saturday night till Sunday morning or afternoon. We would be there in the company. Uh, so these kind of things has also happened. So single player experiences to mean my personal preferences are really interesting. They are in a controlled environment. They take players through journey. For example, I was playing Mortal Kombat, I think 10 or 11, uh, 10 I think, or 11, I forgot whatever is the latest one. So I was playing through the story, and I was playing through all the different stories of the characters. So if you play through Kotal Khan as your main character, you basically end up in a different storyline. If you play through Melina, if you play through Raiden, you will end up with different storylines. So these are interesting. Multiplayer games, yes, because in today's world, because my circle is not that great and I do not play with a lot of online players, but people love playing with a lot of in their groups, and they like to play with people from different geographies, different areas of the world. And then multiplayer comes to a very important part of the game. And gaming companies currently, they try to keep an essence on both of them. But I see, at least to the games that I played, single player, what you said, the stories or the events or the timelines, whatever you call it, those are getting shorter and shorter. I mean, I know it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to design levels and animations and storylines and all. But yeah, I mean, it depends on what kind of market you want to, because a single player game will not earn you any money. I won't pay to any online or anything. I just pay it for the game and I'll play it and I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that there's money, so that means the priority is more on the multiplayer games. And with the recent this what do you call it, inception of the battle royale games, Fortnite came, become a super hit overnight, and then PUBG came, and there are a lot of any number of games are there. In India, there's a, I think if I'm not wrong, there's a game called Free Fire, which is exactly similar to how you're, or maybe I've never played that, so it's similar to that kind of genre, battle royale. uh, and there are a couple of other games as well. So, and also there are a lot of games which do not need a lot of player movements, but sort of like rummy kind of game, right, where people connect over the multiplayer games on a table, but they just play team patti or play poker or something like that. So multiplayer is an important part, and that's where the challenges come to the devs as well, because we have to be full stack. And a lot of these companies hiring today, they are targeting for full stack engineers. So gone are those days where, uh, except for a few companies who are still on the old school way of doing stuff. Games generally these days are back end and front end mixed together, and yeah, that's what they are. But I personally would prefer games which give you more on a scale of single player rather than a multiplayer. That is important. It earns money for the company. So more than that, I would like UGC, uh, and maybe possibly more DLCs. That DLCs are coming anyway. UGCs are better because players know what they love, and if there is something that they can create and publish, that's even better. So that's happening with a lot of games these days. But yeah, these are the days. But yeah, multiplayer will be the future. It will be that. There will be few people like me who will still not play because my circle is very small, and I generally do not have a lot of time to spend on games, because I am. It seems irony. I inspire my ideas from games, but I do look up at those games on a very analytical eye at this point of time, rather than on a player experience. Oh, this fascinates me. I know how this has happened. So I just look at an analytical eye. Oh, this is an interesting gameplay. Oh, this I was just looking at some studio in UK who is a part of Facebook now. Uh, I forgot the game name, but it was a really interesting gameplay. And even IGN released some game today, which was a Japanese studio probably. It was a really interesting gameplay. With mirrors, you can extend your rooms. You can take that rope, turn your mirror, something like that. It blew up my mind. Oh, this is a kind of gameplay which is really refreshing too. Rather than just creating bunch of characters and assigning them AI abilities and then go on gung ho. I think these kind of gameplays are missing for a very long time. And even I'll be very frank, a lot of big companies, they struggle with IPs. They make games, what do you call, in India we call it, like in terms of movie industry, we call it dubbing. So a lot of gaming industry has been doing dubbing of old games, like with new characters, new Unreal Engine 5, like something something. And I'm a kind of guy who would really love to see those games which were coming in 90s, 2000s, when we were, the gaming industry was still not that big at that time, and the ideas were very new, right? Nowadays, like you see, there's a Flappy Bird, there's 50 different kinds of Flappy Bird everyone is making. Just change the assets, change the, so this it's not good. Interesting gameplay should come, and these are coming from very rarely. So yeah, I'm rooting for them.
Okay, yeah, I'm the same. Like most of my gaming these days goes onto single player experiences, like Uncharted, Half Life, Alex, for example, in VR. And
Yeah.
like I used to play a lot of multiplayer personally, and especially when I was at uni, college. But like now, it's just I don't have as much time to commit to gaming, so I still try and play some games on a regular basis, ideally on a daily basis, even if it's a little bit, because it's something I really love and enjoy. But like you're saying, the thing with online is you need to be spending hours and hours and hours just to get to a position where you're even good enough, or your character, you might be good enough, but your character's good enough to actually compete. And when you can actually buy, accessories, weapons, armor, gold, and loot, and all that other stuff, it's becomes really unfair advantage. Because I remember, playing Call of Duty. I used to play it a lot, and then just stopped, just got busy with the stuff. And when I tried to get back into it, it was just everybody else had ranked up so much. They had got so many better weapons and so many better attachments. It just it just wasn't fun, and it was just going to take way too long for me to even get to a point where I was at a position where I had something comparable to what they had. So yeah, honestly, for me, it's a time thing. That's partly why I don't really play that many RPG, even like single player RPG games anymore. It's just so time consuming.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully they do more single player experiences, because I do love single player experiences, and I do want more DLC for single player for big
Yeah.
games like GTA, for Uncharted, for Half Life, and these sort of games where they're like, okay, you can have a an expansion that's a third of the length, but will charge you a third of the original price. I'm happy with that. It's just I don't want to
Yeah.
be waiting 5, 10 or so years potentially for the next title. I would like
Mm.
to again, sometimes the titles are fantastic. Okay, my last question is, because you worked at EA, one of the biggest gaming companies in the history of mankind. It's huge and still is.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone that's starting out in their career, or they're still at university and they want to work for a big studio like EA, which I know a lot of people do? What advice would you give?
Uh, it depends on where they are, but a general piece of advice would be just manage your plate what you want to take, because I know these days, see, there is no one kind of template which any software engineering company or a gaming company generally goes for. So for example, I'll give you inside, for whatever interviews I've given or attended or people I've met with, one, again, renowned, I'm only talking about companies which are quite well known in the world, and those are present in India. So you go over to one company, they will ask you, are you good with camera character and control, which is the 3C, is what the Ubisoft way of saying gameplay programmer, right? Or a gameplay 3C programmer. uh, to You go to EA, they need software engineers, like general software engineers who have a gaming domain, who have interest in games, because it's very difficult to find people who are good software engineers as well as good with gaming. It's a very rare combination. I mean, good with software engineering as well as good with gaming. That's a rare combination. So this kind of, and if you go to some other company, they will say, okay, are you good with so their way of approaching engineering will be through data structure algorithms as your first round. So someone who is in college currently, uh, I would say, if you are going through a general engineering line, and if you are really interested in making games, not just like you have picked it up, oh, working in gaming it seems cool. Whatever seems cool now maybe may not be cool couple of years down the lane, and changing a career is okay, but it's not beneficial. uh, so you have to live with the consequences. That's given for any role that you choose. So if you are coming through a purely software engineering college and want to get into a gaming background, the current world and the interviews are in a phase in such that data structure algorithms are your first round of interview, whichever company you go. And whichever company was not taking data structure algorithm as an interview, they have also modified it. because this has the change with the EA interview panel. What we did when I came, I was asked a couple of some questions related to language. I made a game on space shooter, and one more or two more round, something like that. And now the first round is the screening is data structure algorithm. Then there's a data structure algorithm round. Then there's a depend on your seniority. There's a system design round. It's very much like very generalized nowadays. If you go to either a software company or a gaming company, the only thing that you can and so the saying being said that having said that, so prepare for general software engineering, even though you are like super dead serious about coming into gaming industry only, like I was at that time, because I was very noob at that time. I did not understand the difference between software and games. To me, software was a dead product and game was alive, and I was that level of biased at that time when I was young. Now that bias is not there because I know it's just a piece of software. What you put into it to make player happy, if that makes you happy, you are a game developer, or you're a front end or application developer. If there is nothing there for people to see or you to see, you are a back end developer. And you are working with basically dead. There is nothing on your screen. It's my understanding. So I could be biased. I am biased. So if for someone coming on a generally software engineering college, focus on data structure algorithms because they will help you to clear interviews. It doesn't make sense, even though a company like EA allows you to, or Zynga or Ubisoft or anyone in the market who is bigger names, or even some really good startups in India. I'll tell you, the VC companies in India are favoring gaming companies over any other tech company in India because they generate that much of revenue. One of my ex-colleague from Moonfrog, he created a company called Gameberry Labs of SAR. He is This year's revenue is projected for I think somewhere around 400 crores in Indian rupees. I see. That's like unattainable in your lifetime if you're working in any company. Even if you're a director, 400 crores is like a lot of money in India. 1 crore is a lot of money in India. So come from a software engineering mindset that you will be good with data structure algorithms. You understand data structures well, you understand algorithms well, you understand common problems which are there in lead code. Practice lead code. See, this is not bad. This just exposes you, because my understanding was this is bad and I suffered it. At the end, I had an understanding that, oh, no, no, no. How could I make games which run faster if I do not employ a really good algorithm? And a practical example that happened in one of my company is I was creating basically a CSV file to from a, what do you call, an Excel sheet into a CSV file. I wrote something, and it had some 30,000 rows in it. That idiot algorithm took 5 minutes. See, 30,000 lines of Excel converted to CSV took 5 minutes. How bad that algorithm will be. So I have all these experiences through what do you say, through a punch in the gut. So whatever I'm saying is saying through what is relevant for the market. So come through that software engineering mindset. You are a software engineer. Whenever you are getting joined in a company, you will be hired as a software engineer. Your designation will be software engineer. You will be paid as a software engineer. Gaming is something which is a subset of a software engineering that people do. That subset of a software engineering, which exposes you into really good challenges in terms of networking, in terms of working on the back end, and working with cloud providers, working with databases, working with networking, working with multiplayers, l- matchmaking. There are any number of things inside gaming. The only thing is you need to get yourself into those challenges. So for someone in college, come through the DSA way. Spend time, even though it would feel like a bitter juice, just gulp it, understand. And when you realize that, oh, you are not learning it because else is learning it, or you are not learning it because you are targeting that 200k package or 300k package, that impossible money which you feel as a fresher, uh, as one of your guy from college or some college joined and getting that in US or UK somewhere, right? You are not targeting that. You are planning to get better at your craft. And the companies, like these big companies or even startups these days, good startups who pay even better than these companies in India, uh, they will look for these things. Are you a guy who is really good at software engineering? Even though you are a fresher, doesn't matter. You would have created something in your college. Can you explain these things? You could be wrong. You could not have a really deep understanding. No one is looking for, right? We when I interview people, I do not look for an in-depth understanding. I know whether these kind of things are not easy to get. So spend that time. Come to the software engineering domain. Do spend some time if you have enough time. For me, like you were a paranoid in your like you were a paranoid in your college or school time, you are spending a lot of time, you do not have friends, you do not have life, uh, so spend that extra time to get better again at your craft. Learn some gaming programming language. I mean, language you anyway would be learning in your CS background. Learn Unreal Engine, learn sorry, Unity, some game engine, Godot, anything is better than nothing. And you would have something to show in your resume. That worked wonders for me. Not I did not join EA because I did not apply to join EA in the beginning of my career, because there is another reason, another bias in my mind that I would not go Hyderabad. All my friends are in Bangalore. Fine, whatever. So that happened. But we do hire interns. A lot of companies inside EA who are bigger companies, Zynga, Rockstar Games, EA, Ubisoft, they do Sumo Digital, right? A lot of other startups, they do hire interns. They do hire people who are still in their final year of college. They see these people are really good with algorithms, data structures, and all these things. Let's hire this guy. Keep this in our team. The only thing that can happen is he or she will learn and grow ahead, right? You cannot go backward, and you should not go backward. So learn if you are finding extra time, and this has worked. This is a proven example. I can, if you want a testimony, I can give. There's a girl uh, who was not even doing engineering. She was doing masters in computer application, MCA. MCA is sort of a diploma level kind of thing in India. It's one level below your it's undergraduate degree or graduate degree. I'm not that great with that understanding, but it's one level below your degree, right? So, and company do hire people from MCA level as well. There, you would see there are senior developers who are not on BTech or MTech or BS or MS in US or UK language, and they are still working on senior positions. So it all depends what your skills are. Do not burn yourself. Do not try to prove that okay, you keep your eyes open 24 hours of time and you will grasp everything, you will understand everything. 90% of the things that you will read, you will not understand. But it's important just to familiarize yourself with the jargon, whatever is coming, because next time you someone talks about it, you can ask in your team, oh, what do you mean by that? Can you tell me? They would be happy to tell, like this is what we are talking about. Or you can find, when you see resources 2 or 3 times, you will understand those concepts. We are not, so this is again for freshers, people who have worked in the industry, they know their way out. Someone who is coming fresher out of the college, come with good data structure algorithm knowledge, come with good understanding of what software engineering is, make your way through the gaming world. Even if you have done one prototype in the gaming, that is better than doing nothing. That is better than saying that, oh, I am very much enthusiastic in doing in working in the gaming industry, but I have not done anything. It doesn't work in your favor, right? It's think of as a point based system. The more points you accumulate, the more your chances are. And it's not like that because you have not cracked into any of these companies in your early career you will never work. Take my example. I started with a company on a very low salary which was not even known to like 50 people in Bangalore. It was just popular among couple of uh, schools on the product that I was working. I built my way up. I get myself into more challenging roles, and I did work with EA. And I'm also going to work with a couple of other bigger titles and other bigger companies in the future. There's no doubt about it. Maybe some non-gaming companies as well, because now I understood your software engineering knowledge is more important than just being a game developer. Do not put yourself into a very limited mindset that, oh, I'm a game developer, I do not like software engineers. No, you are a software engineer who just happened to be working in a gaming domain. So keep in that mindset, be very open, do not restrict it, because the biggest problem that young people do is they create bias in their self mind and they close their own doors. This is the biggest problem that happened with me, that's happening with a lot of people. That's why whoever comes to me in LinkedIn, I am a kind of guy who, if I see that you are motivated, do not stay and think that people who work in gaming domain or who are quite senior to you, someone who has 8, 10 years or 18 years of experience in gaming, would not reply to you. There are certain genuine people who are really happy to help you, and I've done this in the past. There is a girl that I was talking about who was in MCA. She recently cracked Google Summer of Code, and that too in Godot engine as a project. And Godot also recognized her effort, and something is going on. I am not quite familiar with the latest, but see, this is the kind of thing that's happened. Things will not or may not happen. It will not open doors for you immediately. It will seem like in a limited perceptive mindset that oh, this is not working, this is not happening. Yes, sometimes it would look like that way because there would be some constraint or the other, that you either money or either some job or something. And so know that you, to fulfill that criteria, you are settling for less. But just as a hobby, just to go get into a better role, a better position, or on a better at your craft, no one is stopping you. No one stopped me to get into a AAA, or what do you say, console level of development, because I just worked in the mobile domain. I landed myself a console role, and you will, something soon will come up, you will also see. uh, yeah, no spoilers. But yeah, this is how you can come. Do reach to people. That's the best thing that you can do in LinkedIn. Some of them will not reply because you, understandably, most of us are busy after coming home. Again, we have to read a lot of things, we might have some deliveries, but there are times in weekends when we are free, right? Do reach us. Even though we do not reply immediately, even though we do not reply at all, reach to people. One out of those 5 people or 10 people will reply to you, and they will go any lengths to help you. And I'm open myself. So if you just want some help, if you do not know the way, I'll be more than happy to guide you, because there were people for me in the very beginning of my career. I got some support. I figured out a lot of things on my own. I do not want you to reinvent the wheel, face the same problems, and then be like Eminem of gaming industry and say that, oh, I did this, I did that, I learned from a mistake. That's no point in like doing something or understanding something where someone is already there to show you path. So feel happy, but do know that even I do busy, but I'll find time and I will try to. I do not have any channel. I do not delve into a lot of social media, but do reach me through LinkedIn. If I see that you are really happy and really interested, I will judge you from that. I will help you in any way. That doesn't matter. There are people who has reached me who are not even from gaming background. There is this one girl who got placed in EA. She was not at all in the gaming background, not at all in the general software engineering domain. She was in some micro, that whatever chipset or some kind of that kind of development, and she got placed because she asked for the help. There are some people out there who would be genuinely happy to help you. So do reach, do practice, do come through that software engineering line that I've mentioned, because that's very important. You do not want to fail in your first round. I don't. A lot of people won't care. They won't give you that second opportunity because the world has turned in such a way. This is the reality of today's world. You have to be good with data structure algorithms because that's the baseline for all engineers or anyone that comes into the programming world, be it gaming, be it AI, ML, whatever. That's the baseline. Cross it. The remaining steps will be very easy for you. If you are very fresher, we will ask some projects, we'll ask what challenges have you faced, or sort of like these things. It's very conversational. No one will ask you system design or design Facebook for us, design WhatsApp for us in a gaming domain. Nobody cares about those kind of things. If you can answer, that's great. You will get even better points, like I said, the point based system. But if you do not push yourself into the things that you see, at least in India these days, there are a lot of websites which do promote, if you want to get into a mang company and all that nonsense. Do not push yourself into some level. Take your time, learn your skills. If you feel that you are lacking something, spend some more time. And if you do not land into some opportunity, do not be disheartened. I'll tell you, I applied to a very renowned company inside India when I was in Bangalore. I was not selected. I applied to that company again after Moonfrog. I was selected. I did not consider the offer because the pay was not high. I am again getting the same company to reach me that okay, we have a very senior role, like, and come and join us. We will pay you an exorbitant amount of money. See, these opportunities do not stop if they do not come at a single point of time. They keep on coming. Maybe not now, maybe after 6 months, maybe after 1 year. I did fail a Facebook interview last year. Very happy because I prepared for that, and I got genuine feedbacks this year. Again, they reached. So this people will come to you if you have skills. They have the hunger to hire people. So do not get disheartened. If you do not land into the gaming industry in the first domain, do not waste your time. Get into some software company, learn about whatever things you can at any point of time within 3 years or 3.5 years. You can come into gaming industry without any problem in India. Without any problem in India. Unless until you are like 5 years or 7 years or 8 years down the lane, at that point of time you are more solidified into your domain. It would be difficult for you to understand the jargons getting into the gaming industry. On a very rare basis that happens, but try to be within 3 years. Within 3 years you would still be a software engineer one inside India, no matter, or maybe in some other country. I do not know, but this is generally within 3 years you will not get into a soft senior engineer role. Everyone consider that's at 4 year 5 years or whatever that case is. So within that time, whatever opportunity you get, try to get into. If you are into development, try to get a role into development domain. Doesn't matter what language you are working on, doesn't matter what tech you are working on, just make sure that the tech is not legacy. I mean, you will be working on C++ or any other object oriented programming language. It doesn't make sense that you work on Lua or like Perl or some other like languages which are like dated back, right? Which are just work in legacy systems. Do not take that kind of technology. Take which is currently running in the market. Work on that, gain your experience. You will learn something. That experience will make wonders, and make games in between. Like, make games in between. I still do. I'm 8 years into the industry professionally, 18 years into making games as a hobby. I still make games to this point of time. I have no shame telling that I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I do not understand how Unreal Engine's particular system work, how Unity something work. I look at them, I copy them, I make that project, I learn something. When the time comes for your professional journey, you will use that thing. Okay? So nothing goes into waste, right? So try that, and yeah, please do reach me if you need any help. I would be more than happy to guide you if you are blocked in at any point of time. And I would not be able to tutor you. There are really good people like Frahan himself who has a lot of tutorials. There are people like Brakis for Unity. There's a lot of Unreal Engine online tutorials for games. Sorry, if you want to come into the DSA world, I would strongly suggest do not go into any campaign. Some company promising you like learn from us and we will get you into a Mang company, which is like Meta, Apple, Netflix, Google, something like that, Amazon and Netflix, Google, right? So do not go into that campaigns. Start learning lead code, solve problems in lead code. There are a lot of free resources on YouTube, a lot of good. You will find a lot of Indians doing this, and as well as some guys from US and UK doing a lot of this tutorials and helping you understanding a particular problem. Go through that. It's free. It's you are not bound into anything. Solve one problem after another. Go through a charted path and try solving problems. That's the best way you can do as a junior engineer. And do not compare yourself. Your friend landed at a 50 lakhs or like what you call in US, UK, some 50,000 pound opportunity. You landed a 30,000, the base minimum or something like that. It's in 5 years of time you will be earning more than him. That gap will be covered pretty fast. Yes, there will be some financial gap here and there, but doesn't matter. Overall, if you average out, if you are three and he's a five, after 5 years of time, that will average out. That difference won't be that much, or maybe you are ahead of the race. So do not think about those things. The only thing that's keeping us at bay is our own biases that we create in mind. Drop them, proceed. That's the best thing that you can do. Yeah.
I mean, I like the answer. You're right. You've just got to keep progressing, keep working on yourself. Never stop learning, and just like I said, don't be afraid to reach out to people, because that's one of the biggest things I've experienced myself. You've experienced, and I've seen other people that they're too afraid just to ask. And like the worst case, if you ask, they'll say no. Then you move on to the next person, and you never know, that person might remember and think, okay, I said no at this no moment in time because it wasn't right for me. But it's
Yeah.
happened to me where they reach out to me later on, like years later sometimes, and it develops into some sort of business relationship. And I'm like, at
Yeah.
that moment in time, and for many years, I thought it was just dead, like that relationship was just dead. But it wasn't, because you did reach out, or it might turn out that you reach out to them, they say it's not suitable for us right now, but here's somebody else, and they can get you an introduction to someone. So there's that as well. So yeah, I think that's our advice for people. Just keep progressing, like Pabitra was saying. Don't be too close minded and think, okay, I'm games and I'm not software. You're right. Games is just a branch of software, and the reality is, depending on what sort of studio you work at, you'll probably have to look at non-game sort of technologies. If you're doing your own indie, you're gonna have to make your own website. That's not game programming. Where you'll touch HTML, CSS, JavaScript, probably PHP, Python, React, that sort of stuff. You might need to create some sort of admin panel, a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, don't be so close-minded, because I've seen that in the past where I've had friends where they'll say, I'm only going to work at a games company. And the ironic thing is, pretty much everyone that was so close minded like that, they ended up working in non games companies, for the simple reason they, at that moment in time, they wasn't able to get a games company role, and now they're
Mm.
not thinking about switching over. And I think that's kind of one. It's kind of nice because they've got experienced something new, but it's kind of a shame because they had this idea, they had their heart set on working in a games company, and now it goes the opposite way. The people that are so close minded about something, when they do switch, they're still closed minded about the thing they've switched to. So they're not open to opportunity to going back or to going to something new. So yeah, that's our opinion. I want to thank Pabitra for coming onto this podcast. We've had over 2 hours of great insight into the industry. So he's worked at EA, Moonfrog, and he's doing his own stuff now. And I wish him the best. He's a good friend. Known him for 7, 8 years now, and I'm definitely going to have him on again, because there's a lot of questions I still want to ask him. And I'll see you on the next podcast, Pabitra. So I want to thank you for coming on. And
Yeah.
any socials that you want to put in the description, just message them over to me, and I'll put them in, so you can check out his GitHub page, his Twitter, if he wants to share that, all that sort of stuff. So you can follow him as well, and just keep up to date with what he's up to. So thanks for coming on, and it's been great.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I had a lovely time. Yeah.
It was fantastic. Bye.
Take care. Bye.